How different does this feel to you than last year, where you're sitting here, the team's 7-3, you have so much potentially ahead of you, such high stakes for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think we feel good with where we're at, but you also do understand that things can turn. We have a whole season left, basically, with what are we, 7 games left, and so things can still turn fast in those ways. So it's us understanding where we're at, understanding where we can be, and focusing on where we are at this moment. Ben said something to me, and then said it to the team recently. Is his one of his old mentors. Um, he said, you don't, and this is speaking on quarterback terms. I don't know if you can go 25 for 25, but I do know that you can go 1 for 1. Each and every single time, 25 times. And so, just focusing on where we're at, and focusing on being 1-1. And that's me saying 100%, but that's 1-0 this week. And we focus on that. We go 1-0 each week. We'll be exactly where we want to be.
You talked last week about the pressure in late game situations and how
Yep.
that raises your game because there's just no other option than it has to be right.
Yep.
Do you feel like it'll be that this might be a situation like that too, big picture, where the stakes are so high, the pressure is on, that it will kind of have that same effect with you?
Yeah, I think I'll my mindset is, I don't ever flip into this is a higher stake game than the other. That's never it's you start falling into that trap, and you start looking at records, or you start looking at where teams are, where other teams are, and where we're at, and you start comparing and doing all these different things, and so then you start getting distracted with where you want to go and where you want to be as a team and as an organization, and I've learned that being here, but also a little bit earlier in my career, in college and things like that, and so just solely focus on being 1-0 this week, and not adding or subtracting any pressure from any game, because there's only 17 that we're promised, and each and every game means the world for that week. So
Right. When you went back and looked at those 2 deep balls you guys couldn't connect on, the one to Rome and the one to DJ, when you watched the film, what did you see that next time you guys will be able to connect on that?
yeah, I think Rome's, just give him a little bit better shot. It was about a yard in front of him or so, and those are something that are lower percentage throws, just overall. If you're just looking at the statistics of it, but we fully expect ourselves, and those type of passes, those type of throws to be very, very, very high percentage between Rome and I, and then DJ. I just got to give DJ a shot. I let it go kind of early, understanding that somebody was starting to run free, and just standing there. If I take a hit, I take a hit, and just deliver DJ a good ball.
What does it say about the team that in a bunch of situations late in games, it's not just 1 or 2 people, it's so many different people stepping up, like a Josh Blackwell, Moody, Duvernay this last week.
Mm-hmm.
What does it say about the team that everybody's making plays?
Yeah, we're bought in. We believe, and like I said after the game, we got all the guys that we need. We got everybody. We just have to go out there and execute for the whole game, all 60 minutes. We're in such a unique position because, like I said, we have all the guys. We got all the coaches, and you don't want to, waste these opportunities in these weeks and things like that, because, like I said, you only got 17 that are promised. And so just being able, for us, being able to focus and maximize what we have and where we're at, and start really affecting the game positively, throughout the whole game, as all 3 phases are connecting and gelling and meshing. We'd rather do that rather than have the somebody show up, or one side of the ball show up, or 2 sides of the ball show up at the end of the game and have to really kind of nut up or shut up. And so we want to be able to focus on all 60 minutes, and start doing what we're capable of on all 3 sides of the ball, to be honest.
When you were growing up, go
Ben
ahead.
said the other day about the 50-50 balls. It's something he's not super keen on. But like with deep shots, how does that change your approach and how you deliver those deep shots?
I'm not a 50-50 guy either. That's never been my thing. You don't want to give the defenders or anybody that type of percentage. You work your tail off. You do all these different things to try and hit and gel and mesh at the right time, at the right play. And that starts with O-line, and it starts with me delivering a good ball, play actions, or the receivers running a good route and making it more of a higher percentage. But 50-50 balls are not that they've never been kind of my thing, unless obviously it's fourth down or whatever desperation time. But other than that, we work on higher percentages. That's why we got the coaches we got the players we drafted and got, and all these different things to be able to make these plays not 50-50 chances and instead make them high percentage in our favor.
When you were growing up, what was it you liked the most about Aaron Rodgers?
I think he's probably it's probably a couple quarterbacks in the world that have been able to spin the ball the way that he does. And growing up as a kid, when you find and realize how hard it is to play this position, and you admire some of the things he's been able to do over this long career he's had. And so the way he's been able to spin the ball and put the ball in different places, whether on the run or in the pocket, that's something I probably would say.
Caleb, how much have you thought about the?
I'm sorry. Do you hope he goes?
Do I hope he plays? Yeah. You always want their best out there, and he's one of the best in the world, and he's been one of the best in the world for however long he's been in the league, and so you always want to go versus the best when you play, and hopefully get to say what's up to him, shake his hand after.
That was kind of my question, just what this matchup is to you. I know his status is kind of in doubt with the injury, but just having a chance to go against Aaron Sunday.
Yeah, it'd be cool. It's just for me, not getting into the mindset of anything other than it's just another matchup. And then after the game, you obviously, you give him his kudos and ask for any advice or anything like that. But, during the game and before the game, it's us battling versus each other, going to war and trying to, be 1-0 for our teams.
Do you have to guard against, just in terms of, I know you've said you want to win this team a Super Bowl. You have to get to the playoffs first. Just knowing where this team is right now, 7-3, first in the NFC North. Do you have to guard against thinking, hey, that's within reach, but it's still like 6 potential weeks away? Like, how do you approach that?
Yeah, I've gone through one season so far, so I've definitely not fully a vet or anything with this whole process, but I've gone through a season where we started off pretty well, and just understanding that it's a long season, a lot can happen, and I've kind of been in those shoes of what you're kind of talking about, and looking forward, and just making sure that myself that I stay away from the social media. I don't focus on any of that, and I stay present with where I'm at, and make sure I stay on my routine. Make sure I lead these guys. They feel my leadership. They feel my determination to go and win. And become 1-0 each and every week that we play. And it starts with this week.
I know you expect blitz when you face Brian Flores, but 66% blitz rate is kind of an absurd number. Did that feel like that in the moment, and how do you think you handled it?
I think there's a couple passes that I missed, or a couple passes that we won back as a team, and there was times where we were clicking and we were moving the ball and running the ball and passing the ball and moving well, and so I didn't know that it was that much, but they were getting a little bit of pressure, and you could kind of feel it sometimes, and so I think offensive line did a great job. Everybody else, tight ends and running backs did a great job blocking, and we got to execute and do better, just to be able to pull away and not keep the game so close, and kind of keep it kind of like the first game. But I think I did feel it a little bit, when it comes that much.
You guys are 7-3, and you talk about this belief that you have. If you could rewind a little bit to January when you were excited about them coming in, was this kind of what you thought it would look like? How does this compare to kind of what you hoped this season would be?
I didn't really put an expectation on it in the sense of that. When you start training and learning the playbook and all these different things, you understand that that's a process in itself. And then there's multiple different things that attribute to winning games and all of these different things. And so, that was my focus when he first got here, and I was just excited, just because all the things that I've heard from, my friends around the league, that whether, they've played against him or they played for him and things like that. And, just excited for what was to come. And then, now being here with him, he's been everything that he's told me he was going to be. Just going out there and fighting for him and all the coaches and all the players in Chicago. And so I think he's provided that belief, that confidence, but also the discipline for us. When you have all those different things and belief in your coach, belief in each other, you start being able to win some games and even win some maybe unfavorable games.
What stands out to you about the Steelers defense when you watch them on tape?
Yeah, they got some guys on that side of the ball. They got some vets, and then they also have some real vets that are playmakers, and they just have playmakers on that side of the ball. Overall, the pass rush, the two guys, 90 and 51, and then they obviously have Jalen and Hayward, and you keep Patrick, and all these different type of players, and you see why that they've been where they've been for the past. I don't know how many years, and why they haven't really had a losing season in a bunch of years and things like that. So it's a great challenge for us. We're excited to go out there and compete against them and be able to show who we are. Awesome, the Bears.